I ain't drunk. I'm just drinking.
But you're so high.
Oh man, you know I ain't high.
But you're so high.
Yeah, well I just take a little sip every now and then.
But you're so high.
You ought to be ashamed of
Stay
yourself.
drunk all
Oh,
the
come
time.
on now, you all don't feel like that.
Hey kids, we're back. Been gone all week in Iowa. So yeah, good times there. So here we go. Welcome back to JJ's Chop Shop. We're going to work on the rifle a little bit more. Now, I don't know if you can see this or not. So we're going to take the camera off. There she is. Dip job is done. Check it out. Bam. How cool is that, right? And a couple of my buddies said, make sure you don't let the flag touch the ground. So there you go. So yeah, the finish is done, the clear coat's done, everything's done as far as the paint and the dip, okay? So we're gonna take this off. And now what we're gonna do, we're gonna start fitting guts. So we're gonna pop the wing off. Put that over there. We're gonna put the screw back because I tend to lose them, okay? Good enough. All right, so what we're gonna do with this guy now, and hopefully this, I don't know if it's gonna be the last video before the flight, but this is gonna be a pretty straightforward setup. Because this particular bird only takes 2 servos. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna put a micro flight controller in it, controlling those 2 servos with iNav, and we're gonna have GPS in it. And, you know, so it has return to home and all that. We're going to put the motors in, all that good stuff. But the trick is, with this bird, if this was a larger bird, it would not be a problem. The problem is, it's a very small bird. Very, very tight. See that? Okay. But I think we can make it work. So what we're going to do first of all is we're going to put, my buddy said the last time he flew this, everything worked. So there's my rotor twister. Don't do build sober. We got a really cool quad coming up too, but I don't think I'm going to do a build video on it per se. But anyway, back to the point. We got 4 nano servos. We've got the motor, which is a 2433 3180 kV. I'm a quad guy. That's Greek to me. And then we've got the ESC, which is the 5 volt 2 amp back. Blah, blah, blah. What size is this? I don't know. I'm assuming it's big enough. I think it's a 40 amp. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to stick the motor in here. Then we're going to stick the ESC in here. And then we're going to stick the battery in there because I want to know how much absolute room I have. Because I'm planning on putting the VTX. It's going to be really hard because there's a firewall back here. Or I don't know what we're going to do. We're going to figure something out. But we got to put a servo here, and the other servo goes in the wing, so that's easy. The GPS module might go up here. I don't know. I don't know what we're going to do. So let's get this motor mounted. I also hydro dipped the nose cone. It looks really cool. I think it's in the house, though. It's got like lightning bolts and shit on it. It's really cool. So that's what we're going to do first. We're going to get the motor in there, and then we're going to figure out how we're going to do fitting all this gear in here. So I printed off with my 3D printer an adapter because we're actually using a 20 millimeter flight controller, but I also need a power distribution board. So we're going to see how this works. We might just be able to stick it right here, which would be really advantageous because that's pretty much going to be our center of gravity right about here. So anywhere within this spot, as long as I can still get the battery in, bam, I'm good. The battery size on this is 2 to 3S and 2200. Let me see if I got one. Yeah, we got a couple. Here's a couple. Here's a 3S22 from the olden days. Yeah, plenty of room in there. So let's, I'm going to go ahead and pop the motor in. We're going to do Loctite on these screws because they are screws and it's very difficult to get those torqued down. Hopefully I'll get this bit right. If not, we'll just have to pop it out and swap them. This is the only time that I condone bullet connectors is on an airplane you guys do this shit on a quad, I will kick your ass, okay? So anyway, bam, there we go. We take these out. We're going to put a drop of Loctite on each one of these bolts, these screws, and we're going to stick her through the nose and see what we end up with. Be right back. All right, and we're back. So here we go. We got the motor mounted in. Whenever you tighten a motor on a quad or a plane, do it in a star fashion, okay? Make sure you do not get Loctite on your paint job. It will eat the shit out of it. So, which I probably did. So here's our ESC. So now we got to figure out, if I mount this ESC down here, do I still have enough room for a 2200? Because I ain't running no 2S on this bitch. Okay. So that's the next thing we're going to do. Now, yep, looks like we will. They have Velcro. Oh, sorry about that. My neighbor, my retired neighbor who I love dearly, just stopped by. So anyway, let's see what we got. So what we're probably going to do is we're going to take a little bit of double-sided tape, squish this guy up to the top, and I think we'll still have enough room for our battery. So I should have done that first. Where's a good knife? Good knife, good knife. There we go. So take some of my 3M double-sided tape. Love this shit. Couldn't live without it. Smoking hot wife. There she is. Take a shirt off. Come on.
See if you got stung by your wasp.
Yeah, I sprayed a wasp with WD-40 and I missed, and the wasp the wasp got really fucking mad. She's like, I'm not staying out here with a wasp. So
is it in your plane?
Yeah, I think it's in one of the planes, actually. It's probably in the one I'm working on. Lord, interruption time. So there we go. We have got the ESC mounted to the top here with double-sided tape. Bam, look at that. Let's make sure this is a tight plane. So we're going to make sure that everything is still fitting. Hang on, let me get this piece of crap off. This is, believe it or not, a Venom 2200 and a Venom battery 3S 2200. It is the first battery I ever bought in my life that was real, a real battery, back 4 years ago, and it still works awesome. But I also don't use it very much. So, okay. Oh yeah, perfect. Now, believe it or not, I'm going to leave that in there probably. Well, we got to figure out how we're mounting this flight controller, because the servo for this guy, that's what we've got to worry about, is getting all the functionality. Because I know I can fit a bunch of stuff back here, but we don't want to get too far aft of the center of gravity because we don't want to be tail heavy and bad things will happen with that. So how are we going to do it? Okay, it's very, very difficult to work in here. So I think with this, I don't know if you guys can see it, but in this bulkhead back here, there's a slot. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to reserve that slot in this area back here for, and I'm not really sure why there's Velcro back there. But I think we're going to put the VTX down here and the GPS right back here with double-sided tape, run the wires out, run them down around here, and then we'll be all copacetic and everybody will be flash and happy. So we got to figure out next. I already tested the servos with my Servo Tester just to make sure they work, and they do. I'm not real sure why we have 4. My buddy Pat gave me 4, so fuck it, we got 4, and they all Futaba Nanos. Okay, so which is cool. We'll just use these 2. Hang it. We got 2 extras. So now we've got to figure out our placement. Here is our... this thing is an interesting plane because... Wow. It is actually set up like a wing. You've only got elevator, and you've got 1 servo for dual ailerons, which is going to fly like a wing. There is no rudder. So it's a 3-channel plane. But it's a very experienced plane because it's 140, 150 miles an hour plane. So, but the setup is going to be very, very similar to a flying wing. So we've got to figure out how we're going to mount these servos. Chances are really good I'm just going to epoxy these in And if they ever die, I can always chop them out with a Dremel tool, to be quite honest. Yeah, that's not going to work. It's way too far back. So I think what I'm going to do, we might take this out. That was rough, right? There you go. So what we're going to do is we're going to fit the control horn onto, we'll go ahead and take this out for now. We know it fits. It's definitely not going to need any Velcro. That thing's tight. I'm not running a 2S. Fuck that shit. I'm not running 2S. Okay? So we're going to fit a horn onto here. We're going to center this servo. So to do that, what we're going to do, I'm going to write on this one. Maybe. Maybe not. Maybe not. Where's my silver Sharpie? There it is. We're going to call this E for elevator, just so I remember what it is. And then we're going to take our servo tester, which is right here on our bench buddy. And we're going to plug this in. And we're going to center it. Okay. So, right about there. Doesn't have to be totally perfect, but it's close enough. So that's what we're going to do. Then we're going to take a control horn and we're going to slide it through, because we need to know what our distance is going to be on this thing. Okay, it's a very tight fit. It's very interesting how that works. It comes out here, comes down there. All right, so yeah, that's what we're going to do. One of the things you do if you're going to be gluing in servos, and I might actually wait and print off, I don't know, I haven't decided. I might print off servo stands for this. We'll see. We're going to go ahead and mark this up with some cross hatches. That will help the epoxy sit in. And then we'll just put it against the firewall right here. So then we need an arm. He's got a bunch of extras in here. Short throw, nothing massive. And this is a short throw bird. You don't need a ton of action with this bird because it goes so fast. We don't have to worry about it. The faster your bird goes, the shorter the throws need to be. Okay, that's one thing I know. I took my black wing, my drone wing, out with me to Iowa when I was out there this week, and I did fly a few packs through it. It is completely undamaged, uncrashed. Love that bird. It's awesome. Okay, so there we go. So we've got our servo. It's just a matter now of how do I want to mount it. Probably mount it that way. It's going to be tight. No matter how we shake it, it's going to be tight. So, all right, kids, I'm going to worry about this, figure out how I did it, and then we will review it. Be right back. Bam, and we're back. All right, it has been a day, I believe. I let the epoxy sit on this thing. We did mount our elevator servo in here. And what I basically ended up doing is taking a piece of 1/4-inch wood, square stock, and epoxied it to the bottom of the servo, and then epoxied it into the plane. Just to get it as far back as possible with as much throw as possible. So I think everything will be okay with that. So what we're going to do now is the guts. So the guts are going to consist of a Maytech power supply board or power distribution board. What is this? Nano Omnibus F3 with the motor outputs. We're going to take also 3 leads, and what we're going to do, and our GPS and our receiver and all that good stuff. So what we're going to do basically is I'm going to wire these female leads into, the white one's going to be your signal, positive and negative are going to be power to the servos. Those are going to go to the power distribution board. Same thing with VTX03. Let me grab one of those. Bam, VTX03, and the receiver. And the GPS will go on there. But what I'm going to do is I'm basically going to make a little pod type of thing. So it's basically going to sit in there like that with our USB sitting forward. And we'll just probably use some double-sided tape honestly. I might print something off with the 3D printer to make a mount. I thought I had one, but the guy who made it couldn't measure. So you're only using it for return to home in this case. So, I'm going to put these leads on, and for the throttle, and that's going to go into 1, 2, and 3 up here. So we're going to have number 1, servo number 1 is going to be throttle. Number 2 is going to be our ailerons. Number 3 is going to be our elevator. And luckily, the new iNav just released very recently, and you can do remapping very easy in it now. So that's going to make this a perfect project for that new version. And that's going to go as close up to this elevator servo as humanly possible. And that's going to give us lots of room in here, hopefully. So I'm going to go ahead and do that up. Bam, we'll be right back. All right, and we're back. So what we're going to do now, I already plugged this in. Everything lights up, no smoke. That's a good thing. So what we're going to do, here's our GPS here. And remember, flying wings to run iNav do not need to have a magnometer, which is a compass, and they do not need a barometer. All they need is a GPS. That's a $10 GPS unit that works really well. I have that in my other wings. XM Plus receiver, our servos, so we got elevator, throttle, and aileron. And those are going to the 5 volts down here off the board. You never want to run servos off of an FC because it doesn't have the amperage to hold it. And then here are the signal wires going in. Here is our voltage coming in, which is the VCC coming in. And then we've got our GPS wired into, what is that, number 2. So our receivers into UART1, GPS is into UART2, servos 1, 2, and 3, bam, bam, bam. Everything, and this is our camera lead, everything is hooked up except the VTX. I'm going to wait till last for that because I just don't really need it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a couple extra servos because my buddy gave me a couple. He gave me 4 and I only need 2, so that's stupid handy. I'm going to take 2 of these and all 4 of them work. I'm going to take them in the house. It is hot. It is so fucking hot, guys. You could make some fried bologna on that fucking sidewalk. It's just freaking crazy. So anyway, what we're going to do, I'm going to go in there, hook the servos up, hook this up to a battery, hook it up to iNav, get 90% of it programmed, make sure everything works. Then I will show you guys, putting the servo in the wing and blah, 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 blah. I did not want to do the servo in the wing yet because I just don't need the extra stuff. So there we go. I will go do this and I'll be right back. And we're back. Okay, here we go. I usually don't build these on the outside of the plane, but since this one's such a tight area, that's what we did. So here's what we got. We got our throttle, aileron, and in this case, elevator. There's only 2 servos in this bird, and obviously your throttle. So the servos, like I said, positive and negative are going to the power distribution board, 5 volts, and all the signals are going into, and I'll straighten this up probably, maybe. All the signals are going into here, which is the inputs to this Nano. Now, if I usually wouldn't use a 20x20 Omnibus Micro flight controller for a plane, but since this plane only has 2 servos, it works out. Because with iNav, channels output 1 and 2 are both for motors 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, okay? These little micro jobbies only have 4 outputs. So you can't really use this in a 6-channel airplane. You can only use it in a 4. Or, I'm sorry, 3. So, but that works out. We got the GPS hooked up. The only thing, here's our camera. The only thing left to do is to wire up the VTX, which I'll do that right before I put it in the bird. And we're simply going to hot glue this into the bird. So we're going to put this in here, put it down along the base, just put a strip of hot glue down each side. Bam, it's going to be good as gold. So I'm going to get this baby finished up tomorrow, and that's when the final build video will be up. I'll have the guts in, and we'll mount the camera, get everything all set up, and we'll have a look at it, and we'll review it. Keep trying to set up, kids. Bye.